One person who knows this story inside and out, Aisha Sultan, is a reporter with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, has been covering this story from the very beginning. What's been very interesting to me is this picture that's emerging of the suspect, Michael Devlin, 41 years old. There are people who say he was the friendliest, most trustworthy guy, and other people say he had this sort of monster inside of him who seemed like he could snap any moment.
It seems like he was different things in different situations. His employer seems to have trusted him, promoted him to manager, said he was very reliable, trustworthy, and then yet his friends say they really noticed a change in him over the years. People who'd known him for 20 years said that he started out, he was a teaser, he would have moments where he could be generous with people, and yet as the years grew on, his diabetes got worse. He did have his toe amputated. He became more reclusive and a grumpier sort of person. And then by the time the neighbors talked to him in these recent years, they were almost scared of him.
They didn't want to deal with him at all. You have had an opportunity to talk to some of his family members, Michael Devlin's family members. He was adopted. His brothers were adopted as well. Right. What surprises me is that they actually don't live very far from where we are at Michael Devlin's home, and yet it appears they never came here.
Well, that's what they said. I talked to a brother of his who said that they had never seen Shawn Hornbeck, even though, like you said, they lived maybe about 10 minutes away from here. They're a close-knit family. They saw each other at Christmas, and they said that they had no idea.
When you talk about this young man, a boy at the beginning, turning into a young man, really being under the eyes of the whole community, there was a time when police actually stopped him.
There was a time when police had stopped him on his bike. He was out past curfew. They asked his name. He said he was Shawn Devlin. There was, now looking back, of course, there seems to have been so many times when if someone had just put two and two together, they could have, they would have found him. And yet, there were several of those missed opportunities. Michael Devlin was actually quick to call the police himself. He had been known to call them when he got agitated about a parking spot.
Very brazen.
So he had a very brazen attitude, and you know, people are speculating whether he was wanting to get caught or whether he had absolutely no fear of ever getting caught.
I think this whole internet connection, the fact that it appears from what neighbors say that Shawn Hornbeck had a cell phone, or access to a cell phone at the very least, was allowed to go out riding with friends in this neighborhood.
Right.
And I mean, across the street there are homes, we should tell people, and of course it's a very small little apartment complex as well. I mean, right. People are living very close and seem to have eyes closed.
Right. Well, he had a friend who came, parents dropped him off almost every day, a best friend that came, and that friend also is saying that he had no idea. There were times when reports about Shawn being missing would come up on TV, and Shawn would not react to that. So.
No, when the full story is out, it's going to be a remarkable story to hear what this young man has to say. Aisha Sultan, thank you very much. Of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch has been covering the story from the very beginning. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much.
We have a limited amount of time. We'll try to cover as much as we can of the Missouri matter. In St. Louis is Aisha Sultan, who's been covering the story of Shawn Hornbeck. Aisha, what's the latest?
Well, Ben's family came out and said today that they are not pushing for answers, that they're ecstatic that he's back. He's acting like Ben again, and they're going to let him talk about whatever he wants to talk about in his own time.
And anything new on Shawn?
No, nothing new on Shawn yet.
Aisha, how are the parents doing?
The parents are still stunned. They feel like they dodged a bullet, and yet they have immense, immense relief.
Aisha, are we learning anything more about the accused?
So far, we've learned that he owned a parcel of property, a vacant property in Washington County, about 20 minutes from where Shawn was abducted. So the sheriff's office there is saying, well, there's a link right there.
Let's get the details now from Aisha Sultan, the staff reporter with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Good morning to you, Aisha.
Good morning, Alex. How are you?
So I'm well, thank you. I hope you are too. Let's talk about Arlen Henderson, vanished back in 1991 in Lincoln County, Missouri, just 11 years old at the time. What's the latest on the link between those two kidnappings and the one of Arlen Henderson?
Well, police have always said that there are striking similarities. The boys are roughly around the same age, the same size, rural areas, on their bikes. So when these two boys were found, there was obvious attention focused on Michael Devlin. He became a person of interest, which falls just short of a suspect in Arlen Henderson's case. And now a task force has been formed with the FBI, local police authorities to try to find some sort of evidence, and none that has come forward yet definitively linking Michael Devlin to Arlen Henderson.
Aisha, in your latest article, you write about Michael Devlin, and you spoke to many people about him, even people that he saw every day. Did you find any kind of a theme that ran through in all these interviews about just who this guy is?
Well, he was pretty quiet, kept to himself. It seems as though he found a way to blend in pretty well with his surroundings.
And I know that you are a team, part of a team that's been covering this story, Aisha, but I also know it's not the first time you've been in contact with Sean Hornbeck's family. Tell me about your previous contact with them.
Right. When we had another missing newborn in this region, baby Abby, whenever there's a missing child, Sean Hornbeck's parents are right there. They're involved with it. And when that baby disappeared, her grandmother lived on the same street as Pam and Craig Akers, Sean's parents. And they went to her, for advice. They were there for her every step of the way. And I did a story about how strongly they've held on to this belief and how hard they have searched for their son. They never let go of the hope. They said they wouldn't know what to do if they didn't have the hope that their son would come back. Richwood is a small town, and just about everybody in this town knows Pam, knows Craig, or knew Sean, or had some connection to the family. So this wasn't just an anonymous child missing. This was someone that was a part of their family, and they felt the pain, and they suffered with this family. Many of them searched for months and months and months for Craig through very difficult situations. So there was in the restaurant where the field manager for the search operation, she owns the one restaurant in town. She said everybody in the restaurant started crying as soon as they got that phone call. I mean, there were a lot of tears, but tears of joy this time, tears of happiness.
It's great. I'm nearly on the verge of tears looking at this woman, looking at her son again, because I'm a mom, and you can't even go where she has been. But Aisha, thank you so much. Appreciate your insights there.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.